call this meeting to order. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All members present. Board correspondent report.
Okay.
Johnson.
I gotta find it. Here we go. All right. Not too much going on, but we had a few things. The Department of Administration announced that Wisconsin ended its fiscal year 2024 with a $4.6 billion surplus. The state saw its rainy day fund, the budget stabilization fund, increase to a record high $1.9 billion according to the new annual fiscal report released by the DOA. I have no idea how that will impact us, but it's nice to know that there is a surplus. Hopefully, we already had that discussion on Act 10, so I'm gonna leave that alone. DPI released the general aid figures as we kind of went over earlier. Algoma did see a 6.43 decrease in funding and our change in our state aid, which is about $358,000. So that's a bit of an impact. It's based on the data from the previous years, so it includes the student count and the year-end financial data. All right, the Supreme Court hears arguments on the challenge to the 400-year veto, upping the revenue limits by $325 per pupil. Don't know if you guys remember this. This is where Governor Evers made the veto in 2023. His partial veto increased how much K-12 schools could increase per student, the 325. Jesse had alluded to that until the year 24-25. What he had done is they had it 2024-25. He used his veto pen to strike out the 2, the 0, and the hyphen. So there's a lawsuit before the Supreme Court saying that Evers' partial veto was barred under the 1990 constitutional amendment, prohibiting this Vanna White, which was named after Vanna from the co-host of the Wheel of Fortune, who flips the letters. And he's saying it doesn't apply to striking individual letters to create new words, not vetoing digits to create new numbers. So that's where it's sitting now, and
Doesn't affect this year's budget.
no, but it's,
Yes.
the 325 is greatly appreciated for our school district. So hopefully it can continue for as long as it can. And then DPI released a standardized testing results for the 2023-24 year, and I went down a rabbit hole trying to find ours to make significant so I could say the impact. And as I said, I was down the rabbit hole. I couldn't remember my WAMS ID to get in, so, but I did get some preliminary, but I didn't want to go off. I thought maybe you guys would be talking about that a little bit later, so I didn't want to steal your thunder. It's the big overall point was that standardized assessments show that about half of the students tested in both public and private school choice programs are considered proficient in English and in math. So they have changed cut scores and they've changed some of the questions, so they can't compare year to year anymore. So this is going to make it a new trend moving forward. But either way, I think that's good news. So I'm hoping, and I didn't know what we give the pre-ACT secure, so I didn't know how to go in and search. So I'm hoping you guys can shed some light on that, if not this month, maybe in the upcoming future. And that is my report.
Okay. Any questions for Amy? Thank you, Amy. We will move on. Board and CISA report. Chrissy?
The superintendent meeting for September was only 24 out of 38 superintendents in the CISA. Lots of homecoming conflicts, and they had to move the event to the Botanical Gardens in Green Bay due to their parking lot replacement at the actual CISA 7 building, so they think that may have impacted attendance as well. Parking lot is moving along, some small setbacks, but if you had CISA events planned, they are hoping to get back in there as scheduled. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in the building while the parking lot is being redone. So you will hopefully go back to seminars with new ceilings, new lighting, new bathrooms, some refreshes. So they have been extremely fiscally responsible as well to be able to make these updates to their building. They had the AISA pricing workshop held at Lambeau, lots of great feedback on that event, especially everyone loving the venue. And then our Board of Control learning opportunity was about the CISA 7 TDC, which is Teacher Development Center. So they offer initial licensing programs, add-on licensing programs, career technical education programs, and para, substitute, and teacher permits. So if there's people that we know that are interested in that, we can send them to that TDC.
Okay. Questions for Chrissy? Thank you, Chrissy. All right, student representative report. Sophia?
Hi. I'm gonna be starting with sports news first. Last week Thursday, Algoma cross country had their conference meet. The girls team placed 7th overall, and the men's team, there is only 2 men's players, and they did extremely well in my opinion. Alex Kirkman got first team overall, first team all conference with a 4th place finish, and Dylan Sadler got second team with a 9th place finish.
Awesome.
And Saturday, the sectional meet at Manitowoc is happening on Saturday at 11:30 is when Division III girls will run.
Are you running?
Yeah,
And how did you do in the last one?
I think I did pretty good.
Have you been improving each time?
I think so. Volleyball also has a regional game versus Manawa at home tomorrow at 7. I do believe there is a $6 to get in per the WIA. And again, a regional game on Thursday for soccer against Gibraltarians Fastball at Gibraltar at 4:30 p.m. And football, as many of you may know, football won across the Bay Conference champions on Thursday of last week. The Halloween walk is Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And I'm unable to attend due to conflict of interest with sectionals also happening that same day. One act also made it to sectionals. I think that's kind of like a mini musical, so there's only one act in the whole thing. Things happening with the students. Does anyone know the Period Initiative?
Mm-hmm. For hygiene products
Yeah.
in the bathrooms? Yep. Well, I know of it. I don't know if everyone does. I shouldn't speak that way.
It's in here today too.
They're collecting aluminum cans to raise money to keep refilling their carts in bathrooms. The musical this year is Mamma Mia, so I think that's pretty exciting. AVA will have their Glow Run as November 1st. It begins at 5:30 p.m. and I believe it's around the block and then down Division Street and then back up.
Why that hill? Why?
Yeah. Ski trip fruit sale. They just started their fruit sale. At this time, I don't know when they end. I'm guessing maybe December or January. That's not for sure. And they are adding a 1-day ski trip, so it'll only be skiing for 1 day and then coming back. And that will be roughly sometime in December, probably when all the snow starts coming. Homecoming news, juniors did win the Spirit Stick again, the 2nd year in a row. We also won Powder Puff. And teeping went smoothly, I think. I didn't hear of any injuries or anyone really getting in trouble, so I think that's good. Yeah. Oh, winter sports meeting is actually happening right now. And then leadership through high adventure. Does everyone know? Okay. That meeting is going to be next week, Monday at 6. Something that was brought to my attention, I heard from a couple students, is that they feel that the first lunch needs more on-site lunch monitors. From my understanding, today there was something that happened at lunch where, from what I heard, it was middle schoolers, maybe freshmen, but that's not confirmed. They made a mess on the floor, and they were just gonna like leave it there. And then a senior or a student then followed them and like told them like, hey, you gotta clean this up, like you can't leave it for like the custodians to clean up, like that's not their job. And then that kind of like happened, and then they did end up cleaning it up, and from what I heard from the other students is that the resource officer did go and then talk to the students. I was not there, I was not in the situation. I had a different meeting going on, but I did hear that from a couple students, from my understanding of the situation.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds like you're very busy with all your sports and things, and congratulations, your class once again did
Thank
very
you.
well.
Good luck on Saturday.
Yes. Good luck on Saturday. Thank you. Any other questions for us?
How can I order some fruit from Ski Club?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you send a link, like, how do we, I know the kids used to bring it home, but I don't have any kids in the school district
Is there
anymore,
a
so.
contact person?
I could ask a couple people, and get the contact for who like sells it.
All right, if you could let Jesse.
I was gonna say, bring them to the, you guys, whenever you have fundraiser, you ought to come, bring it here.
Yeah. If you let Jesse know, he'll let the rest of us know. the
I
contact.
want some grapefruit.
Thank you.
Very good.
That's what I understand, it's fantastic, and I missed it last year.
I don't have any misconceptions and rumors. Did anybody sign in to speak? No. And board president announcements. I want to just share that at the Region 3 meeting, Chrissy received an award for reaching level 1 of WASBA professional development. And it's too bad there weren't a lot of us there to clap for her, but, oh, yeah.
I was laughing.
So that, of course, again, since we have some new members here, you get points for going to different professional development activities, meetings, convention, that kind of thing. And I believe now that there is so much offered virtual as well for people who can't actually make it, I think when you register, since that requires registration as well, that you would get your points then too. So, so congratulations, Chrissy. And along those lines, since most of you were not able to make the regional meeting, there is a free statewide online regional meeting, which is Thursday, November 14th. It is at noon, so that is not gonna work for everybody, but that does give you a chance to see what was covered. And then, again, the other thing going on, and like Amy was talking about, we really need to be vocal with our legislators. There is the fall advocacy workshops. Now, they don't have any that are too close to us. It is a dinner and program, but they also do have an online workshop Tuesday, November 19th from 6:30 to 8:30. And I would expect that that is going to be a very good one. They do have the in-person ones, but West Salem, Pewaukee, Turtle Lake, and Tomahawk. So none of those are, if somebody's interested in going, we certainly, there is something very nice about going and networking and talking with other people at these things, but you can get the information through the online one, and so anybody interested should let probably you know, so you can register us or Jesse. All right, and then you get development points, and then maybe you can be like Chrissy and get your award.
I must say, they must give you points for virtual, because that was my first event that I'd ever been to in person, so I'm giving points electronically.
Well, you probably, the fact that you're CISA and you went to that national convention, you probably got some points for that too.
I figured it was convention virtual.
Yeah, that could be, right, that could very well. All right, so that's the end of my announcements. Administration reports.
Alright, so we're gonna cover some construction referendum, construction updates. We'll go over our revenue limit worksheet. We will review the 24-25 budget, before it goes to a vote for later tonight. And then Amber will review our monthly regular finance update, so. So briefly, a construction update, with Balin Buildings. So we've been meeting with them frequently. We are in the design and build phase operation of this, so 90% of the drawings have been completed. We've been focusing heavily on the band and choir rooms, the tech ed spaces, and the ABA spaces. Making sure that we're getting the electrical placed at the correct spots, the air compressors are in the right spots, because when that goes up for bid, we wanna make sure it's as accurate as possible for the bids to come in, so. Balin's been coming in, meeting with the staff that are involved in all those areas. ABA's they've been working with a interior designer on getting some of the furniture in the spaces to look up to date, so moving along pretty well with that. The bid submittals are gonna be due on December 6th. The Balin will be coming out at the December 16th board meeting to give a public and board update on things, and then hopefully projects will begin in spring. Some construction projects that we're looking at possibly starting even in spring, and lasting over the summer. Some of them may actually begin during the school year while the school's in session. So for example, the middle school, high school parking lot, we can block off sections of that and start working on that. It's all gonna depend on when the bids come in and what, the company's availability will be, but. Our main focus right now is gonna be on that plumbing and roof repairs at the elementary school. That is priority, so. And then from McKinstry standpoint, we've had 2 kickoff meetings in the last week. One on the side of retro commissioning, and then the other side is gonna be more of the conservation projects. So we set up weekly team meetings on Tuesday with McKinstry. Our first one will be tomorrow. So submittals from contractors are gonna be reviewed by the district in the coming week. And then the work on the water conservation, so retrofitting the sinks in the toilets, will take place pretty shortly here in the next 2 weeks, we hope. And that's gonna last about 21 days. That work is all gonna be done second shift, so it'll be happening when the kids are not in session, so. And then retro commissioning of the HVAC and solar panels, that's gonna begin around November, beginning of November, we're hoping. They'll be on site for 8 to 9 days.
What's retro commissioning?
So looking at energy efficiency, basically. So
Okay.
they're gonna look for the baseline and trend data in heating and cooling points, when our dampers are open, letting in fresh air, those types of things, and making sure that it's all energy efficient.
Is there a graphic where you can see what your solar panels are providing?
That is something I've asked for, and yes, they will provide that to us.
Okay, cause
Yes.
we had one at Bayview and it was really cool to we put it on our webpage so people could see actually what the impact was. It was
Yeah.
actually a nice little thing.
Yep. That's something I've asked specifically for them to just give us more data on how much we're collecting.
Right.
How that's being used, are we selling it back to the WPS or Algoma utility, and how that's all being worked out, so.
Yep. Great.
And then the last piece is the application for the focus on energy rebates, so, McKinstry will take care of the applications, we will actually be the ones submitting them though, so I anticipate some good funds coming back from those projects as well. And then just in terms of drawings, going back to Balin, I do have them available, and we can take a look at those, later tonight too, so, for board members. All right, Amber, you wanna talk about the revenue limit worksheet?
Yeah, so for those of you that were here during the public hearing, I apologize because a lot of this is gonna be repeat data for you, but we do need to go over it for the public. The revenue limit worksheet is a form that's provided by DPI. It takes into account multiple different factors to determine how much money the school district gets. And then that money is split up between state aid and property taxes. So we look at the 3-year average of the student full-time enrollment, the voucher payments for kiddos that go to private schools and qualify for assistance for that
tuition. Fund 8038 levy, which is non-referendum debt. Our school district paid off our non-referendum debt last year, so we do not have any levy amounts there. Fund 39 is the referendum debt or the voter approved debt. And Fund 80 levy, which is community service. The revenue limit worksheet takes the total amount that's gonna be added to taxes divided by the equalized value, gives us a mill rate. That mill rate is how much the taxpayer pays per $1,000 of property value towards the public school taxes. So our mill rate for 24-25, if approved tonight, will be $6.48. The owner of a $100,000 property will pay about $648 in taxes to the Algoma School District. You do need to look at the fair market value on your property tax bill. So there's two numbers on there, there's the assessed value and the fair market value. This mill rate is based on the fair market value.
And this is less than last year.
The mill rate is less than last year.
Okay, that's.
Yep, our levy is up and mill rate is down. So the other piece to this is you're gonna pay $648 in taxes to the Algoma School District, but the state's also gonna give you a school levy tax credit to offset, so the state's gonna pay a portion of that bill for you.
Did forget that, you're right, cause then it went down to $4.
Like
So-
4.58, I think.
But yeah, about 4.5% increase to the overall levy. So the proposed budget that's been put together for you tonight was brought to the Finance Committee. It was presented at the public budget hearing at 5 o'clock. You will be voting on it later in the meeting, is a balanced budget. So we are projecting not to have a need to short-term borrow or use our general fund balance other than the restricted portion that's for those grant-related expenditures that did not get spent last year. So we are not using any of our general fund balance for ongoing costs. Total revenues for the general operating budget will be $10,437,026.71. Total expenditures will be $10,453,055.95. That slight difference there is those grant funds that were received last year that need to be spent this year. So the board is being asked to approve the tax levy of $3,037,675 for the general fund 10 budget. Our special education fund is the same amount for revenues and expenditures, $1,759,031.20. This budget, as presented, meets the maintenance of effort requirements. We will have to review that test again in the spring on our actuals, but the budget amount does meet it. Our debt services fund for Fund 39, the referendum debt, has total revenue for debt service of $1,119,305 and total expenditures of $1,029,093.86. Those expenditures are a little bit lower because we are smoothing out the debt payments, so there's not as big of a flux in the levy amounts from year to year. The board is being asked tonight to approve the levy of tax for $760,000 for Fund 39 to pay existing and new referendum debt payments. This is a decrease of a little over $42,000 from last year's debt levy. Our capital projects fund for non-referendum debts, so the referendum money is not being used on any of these projects. We had a fund balance at the beginning of the year of $723,000. We are anticipating a revenue of $19,250 in interest earnings, and our expenses for the year will be $160,985. So the auxiliary gym floor is the biggest project in this fund this year. It came in at $115,985. It is complete.
And it is awesome.
That's
I
good.
just wanna say, it is phenomenal.
We also need to purchase a new enclosed cargo utility trailer that is used by the Leadership Through High Adventure summer program. And we also authorized our maintenance crew to buy a new lawnmower this year. So those two items, we have about $45,000 in the budget. Don't anticipate that that's how much they're gonna spend total, but it's there.
Is 581 healthy for this, or is there a certain
So-
number you want this to be?
Yep, this fund actually could go as low as zero. So we put money away into this fund year after year, build up to the projects we need, and then we spend it on those projects, and then you start building it back up again. So this, unlike your general fund where there's a target reserve amount that you wanna try and keep, you do not need that in this fund.
Is there
It is
a
there
max
to
on
be
it?
spent. Nope.
Is there, okay.
We can put away as much money as we need as long as we have the funds to do so. So capital projects, Fund 49 referendum capital. So these are all the projects that'll be paid with that the referendum approved debt. So any projects that meet the language that was voted on. The total revenue for this fund this year is $10,475,000. That is the $10,050,000 that was voter approved, debt issued in July, and then $425,000 in interest earnings. So that's the money sitting there while we're waiting for things to get done. The total expenditures that we are anticipating for this year is $7,199,100. It is roughly about 70% of the total projects. And then the remaining will stay in fund balance. If for some reason we don't pay all that out in this year, it rolls over and will be paid out next year.
But there is a timeline on how long it has been.
There is, yep. So under IRS regulations, we do have to have these funds spent within 3 years. So that would be 3 years from date of issuance, which was July 11th of 2024. Our food service fund has a fund balance of $254,059.79. We are anticipating revenues to meet our expenditure needs for the year, so there won't be any change in fund balance. This also includes an additional full-time cook here up at the middle school, high school. Last year it was a part-time position, we changed it to full-time. We really struggled to fill it last year, and there is new service to the students with some à la carte or second meal options, which I had today and was really good.
Where the sound.
Yeah, I don't, we'll have to see
It's
if we can
Lonnie's
get you
birthday.
some.
you couldn't
Yeah.
have-
Where's the pizza?
So, and if you remember last year, we kind of talked about, we had to spend this fund balance down because we had too much money in there.
Yeah.
We are now in the good range where we don't have to keep spending, so. Our community service fund, Fund 80, is the fund that we provide community services to everyone, not just our student body. We have a fund balance of $124,974.49. We anticipate our revenues to equal our expenditures this year, so that fund balance will not change. We do collect fees for some of these services, but we also do need to have some tax money to help offset the costs. So we are asking the board to approve a tax levy of $387,000 for Fund 80. That fund balance there should be a little bit higher. It is only 17% of the annual expenditures. 25 to 35% is a better target. However, we recognize that our taxpayers, we need to reduce the impact of them as much as possible, so we are not putting any extra money away this year. We just are levying enough to operate. Sure.
All right, so to summarize what Amber had all put out there, we have 8 key takeaways. So we really need to closely monitor our declining enrollment. We are down 22 students this year. And each student is a dollar amount really from the state on what we get. So that $11,325 per child, multiply that by 22 students, that's a significant decrease that we are accounting for this year. So we hope to see the open enrollment in funds continue to increase like we did this year, while the open enrollment out funds decrease. So we're closing that gap of open enrolled in versus out. Then we also saw a decrease in school vouchers from 23-24 to this year. So it was a decrease of about $12,896 is what we saw. We anticipate that number to go up again next year though, however, because of St. Paul's school gonna now add on these special education vouchers and provide services to those students. The ESSER funds have fully been spent. Oops, sorry, went ahead. The ESSER 3 funds have been fully spent and reimbursed. So we have accounted for all of those expenses. Previously, all those expenses for salaries and benefits for some employees have now been wrapped into our general fund, so we were able to accommodate and account for those fiscal cliffs, basically. The property taxes for the general fund are increasing this year by $580,238. And the overall property tax levy is increasing by $219,738. This will give us a mill rate that will be dropping about 28 cents. Happy to report that the district has a balanced budget that we are presenting tonight.
Okay, so when the board approves the budget tonight, they are approving at the function level, as you will see on pages 2 through 6 in that budget hearing booklet. But to put it all in perspective, the overall view by fund is up on the screen for you with our beginning and ending fund balances and our fund balance reserve rates. So again, Fund 10 and Fund 50 are really, and then Fund 80 are the only ones that we really have target rates for. Fund 10 should be in the neighborhood of 35 to 45%. We're right in that sweet spot. Fund 80 should be 25 to 35. That's a little lower because it is community service projects and items that we can trim a little bit easier without impacting students. And then Fund 50 is set by the state, and that is either 33% or 66%, depending on which thing you use. So the last email that came from them, they used 66%. So we are below that rate. Any questions?
You're tired of looking at numbers?
Yeah, I kind of am. Budget season is one of my favorite seasons throughout the year because I love numbers, but I am getting a little sick of them at this point. It's been quite the roller coaster the last month, so.
Well, thank you for the way you present, because I think
Yeah,
you do it in a
absolutely.
very nice, understandable. Yeah.
So, not to bore you with any more numbers, but this is just our regular monthly update. I'm not gonna read everything that's up there. We are right where we need to be for this time of year. The numbers are looking good. The revenues are starting to flow in. The expenditures are going out at a slow and steady pace. There's no huge red flags anywhere. So, and then these are other funds, the 39, 46, 49, those capital and referendum. So the percentages you see on these two screens do include the budget as presented tonight. So if you remember last month, Fund 49 had just slashes there because we didn't have the numbers in place. We do now have them in place, so. And I think if we looked at the Fund 39 last month, it was quite a bit higher than it is now because there was some revenues that I needed to include that weren't in there last month. So that's all been taken care of. And then our referendum financial update, monthly update. We did not have any expenditures in September. We earned $15,253.06 in interest. So, some nice healthy numbers.
Hasn't hurt.
And that's the end of the presentation.
Any questions for Amber? So again, thank you, Amber. All right, we'll move on. Elementary principals report. Katie?
All right, I have two main updates for you tonight. The first one being AGR. As you recall, AGR is our Achievement Gap Reduction Program, where we receive funding to try to close the achievement gap in grades K through 3 in the areas of reading and math. I did adjust the goals this year, the performance objectives, to align with the changes that we have been required to do for Act 20. So typically in the past, what I have done, and what we've done as a school team, is we used our screener data and we looked at the number of students that were below benchmark, at benchmark, and then above benchmark. And we kind of wrote the goals based around that. However, for Act 20, they are specifically having us use percentile rankings for the screener. So in our process, we adjusted to that, so that's how I have written the performance objectives. So if you take a look at reading specifically, so that's the first column, that's the middle column, but the first large column. Basically the way that I have written it is that by the end of the school year, the number of students that fall below the 25th percentile will not exceed 25%. So that's something that's kind of been a target. And if you look at our preliminary data on that, it's really kind of interesting. So in kindergarten, we only have one student that falls below that percentile. So there's only one kindergarten student that currently has a reading plan per Act 20. In first grade, we have 9 students with reading plans. In second grade, we have 10 students, and then in third grade, we have 14. So in choosing that 25% for the end of the year goal, we're not really sure, since it's a new screener, new data, new process, not really sure if that goal is, or how the numbers will evolve throughout the year. Just based on the screener being new, we're not sure is the trend for the screener to become more challenging as the year goes on, or how exactly that's being assessed. So there is some level of uncertainty yet, just because we are exploring and learning about it as we go. But I did change how the goals are written, just so that we were aligned to that, and because we have a new screener. So
Are the screeners easy to use or hard to use?
they're actually fairly easy.
Okay.
So the new reading screener, the majority of it is one-on-one with students. So it's a teacher or a reading specialist, reading interventionist, sitting down with each student and doing it in person. So that is nice. In third grade, and in second and third grade, there is one component of the screener that they do on their own on the computer. Our previous screener, second and third graders, were doing the entire screener independently on a computer. So I think that's gonna be something interesting to watch as well, because obviously that one-on-one assessment gives a better gauge as to what students are struggling with and what they're excelling in. So then I was originally just going to leave and change the reading performance objectives, but with the addition of our math interventionist this year, we also have changed our process for providing math interventions, and we've used the same percentile rankings. So we are ensuring that every student that falls below the 25th percentile in reading and in math are receiving some kind of support, whether it's from one of the interventionists or classroom teacher. And then just a side note, any student that falls between the 25th and 35th percentile, they also are receiving some support, just not at the same level of intensity. So
And is the math screener online, or is that?
the math is online, yeah, and it's our original screener, so that has not changed. The platform that we are using for the new reading screener does have a math option, so that's something that we are also kind of playing with in our minds, looking ahead to next year, but we just kind of wanted to get a handle on the new reading screener first to see.
Do the special ed kids use the screeners as well?
Yes.
And then that goes for IEP goals?
Yep.
Is there aggregate results anywhere? So like, we saw I have my kiddos report, and then I see that 1 out of 32 is below 25, but is there any way to see like how that kindergarten class is everyone else then, the other 31 in 25 to 50, or is everyone else at that far exceeding level of 75 to 100, just to know, like,
Yeah.
we're only seeing that people that need help, are they super strong, and why are they falling, why are the scores getting worse as they age, right? So first grade's worse than second grade, or third is worse than second is worse than first when you're looking at these numbers. So where are those batches of kids?
Yeah, so we do have that data. We have a number of students that are below the 25th percentile, and then those gray area students, which are the 25 to 35, and then from that we can determine the number of students that are not in either of those categories. As far as the changing, I think it just has to do with the different skills that are assessed in each grade level. So kindergarten, beginning of the year, it's like letter identification and letter sounds. And then, by mid-first grade, they're really transitioning to reading words. Real words, nonsense words. So there's just more components, so the level of complexity increases, and how many individual skills are combined in order to read. So I think, through this new process, we will be able to better pinpoint that, just because because, you know, not only are we giving the screener, I get into it in my next section, but we're also doing the diagnostics. So any student that falls below that 25th percentile, we assess them again to determine, okay, is this really a fluency thing? Is this a comprehension thing? Is it actually just decoding, where they, you know, don't have basic phonics skills that we can work with them on? So it's very strategic in how that falls. So those are just some thoughts that I'm having, but I think the new process will provide us more information with that.
How do these numbers, you know, match up to our typical trends? And then how do they compare to like state?
Yeah, so
averages?
with the new rating screener, it's hard to say. I know Jesse was asking some questions about how many students are on rating plans, and I would say we were kind of low average compared to other school districts that you had been talking to.
We are, yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. You know, I think one thing that has always been a challenge is that every district has free reign to choose, which in the past had free reign to choose whichever screener they wanted to, which is a good thing, and also challenging when you really are trying to compare. So it was interesting to hear from Jesse's standpoint, talking with other superintendents, like, okay, we're kind of in the mix of, if not, you know, doing a little bit better than some districts, so that was reassuring. And I think we'll just get more information as we go. As far as the math goes, I would say that the trend that we've seen with the screener that we've been using is very representative of the numbers here, so kind of spotty. It's been kind of inconsistent for a variety of reasons. But again, the math in second and third grade, it's a computer assessment that they're taking on their own completely for math, which incorporates reading. So it's, you know, it can be challenging.
Just one more question on the reading, with the new, you know, your new screener, you said the second and third grade are kind of independently screening. Do you think that plays a factor?
Yeah.
Not having that one-on-one, or?
For sure, and actually with the new screener, there's only one subtest that they take on the computer on their own, the rest is in person. So I do think that this data that is shown this year is probably more accurate than what we've had in years past, just because they did more of it one-on-one. Because I do think it definitely impacts their ability, their scores, so.
How do the kids feel about having a plan?
You know, they know.
I don't know, yeah, I don't know, you know, they have goals, you know, a lot of students are used to working with multiple teachers. I haven't really gotten any feedback one way or the other on how they feel about it. We've had a lot of parent questions, actually, which is a good thing. Just wondering, you know, how do I read this data? What does this mean? You know, what is my child doing compared to other students? So we've had some good conversations about it. So it's been a positive.
I would imagine part of their plan is at home reading as well, correct?
You know,
There's a part of the
so it's suggested,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I can speak on the peer aspect too. My daughter has a reading plan, so it's kind of interesting to see it on both ends. But I feel like the communication has been very clear, and it's involved the parents to review the plan, to sign the plan.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty straightforward. And my daughter doesn't know anything different because she received reading help last year too. So she's just like, oh, I get to go read with Mrs. Schultz. This is great.
Well, you know, I'm hoping that as they progress, they're like, okay, I'm out of it now. It's kind of like, okay, here's where I am, and I want to get better each time so that I don't have it anymore. I don't mean it in a negative way. It was more of a, is it kind of a challenge?
I think, and two, you bring up a good point that I think there's not enough information to know yet, but there is exit criteria at each of the grade levels for students. When they achieve certain benchmarks, then they can exit the reading plan. The only hang up is third grade, because part of the exit criteria is that they have to be proficient on the forward exam in reading. So that's a little interesting, and the timing of that is off too, because they take the forward at the end of third grade, and then we don't get the forward results until the summer, late summer. I think it was like end of July this year. So I find that really interesting, and I'm not sure what guidance will be on that when that point comes. But the students are monitored every 10 weeks to see where they fall, and there is exit criteria for each of the grade levels. So.
Is the timing, so you said there's one-on-ones, is that about the same amount the teachers were spending in previous curriculums, or is this a burden?
Yeah, it's about the same.
And then we'll get the mid-year and end of
Mid-year
year
and end of
update.
year, yep,
I'm hoping for some decreases.
I know. To be determined, I guess.
Right.
Can I just add a couple
Yeah,
things?
yeah.
So just to reiterate what Katie was saying, directly from DPI's website, for a 5K student, 5-year-old kindergarten, they need to have a composite score, which is either the letter naming fluency or letter word sounds below the 25th percentile to qualify to have a reading plan.
Okay.
For students in grades 1 through 3, the student has to be at risk in the oral reading fluency subtest at 25 percentile or below to qualify for a plan. So that is a big difference between 5K to first through third grade. So I think that's where you're seeing discrepancy in some of this data too. So my last point I just want to make, sorry to interrupt again, but is I just think the work that Katie and Marie has done with our staff last year around the EMLS, the multi-level systems of support, really has set us up successfully for the work that we're doing this year with Act 20. So I just want to commend them for all their work that they did, working with the literacy team, because it's paying off now. So
And a huge shout out to Danielle Schultz, our
Yeah.
reading specialist this year. She has really taken this on, and especially with the screener, we actually screened all of our students using the old screener because they hadn't uploaded all of our students yet, even though they said they were going to. And then all of a sudden they appeared and they were there, and she was like, we're gonna do it. So we didn't have the teachers do it. Her and Shauna Anders, our other reading interventionists, they carved out time, they assessed all the students.
Oh my.
They put it all together, they did the diagnostics, so they did a lot of the heavy lifting for sure.
And wasn't this beginning of year optional?
It's totally, yeah,
Yeah.
right now it's optional, so in
Yeah.
December it's
So
required.
It's awesome that they got it done.
Yeah, they just
because-
really wanted to develop the process, and we had lots of conversations about that, and we just wanted to hit the ground running. You know, we're a small school district, we have small class sizes, you know, we can really leverage that when it comes to change, because we can be quick and nimble with how we implement new processes, so,
And like you said, you have those benchmarks now too, which is
Yeah.
nice.
yeah.
did you say we're kind of a model for some other
Yeah.
districts? They've been asking us for some documents that we've
Presentations,
prepared and,
presentations,
yeah.
conferences,
Yeah, that's definitely,
a
So-
roadshow.
The only question I have is, this doesn't actually go on the teacher themselves in their class. These are like certain amount of time, 10, 20, whatever, throughout the day to go with the reading
yeah,
specialist?
most,
or
so
math
this is where it
specialist?
gets a little tricky. Most of the way that they've been able to work it out based on our numbers is that most of the students are being serviced by either the reading specialist, the reading interventionist, the math interventionist, special ed, or EL support. There are some students in that gray area, because if you remember, you know, we don't wanna forget about them, because it could kinda go either way for them. Those students are the ones that the teachers are really focusing on during plot time, during intervention time. So the teachers have picked up that portion of it, but at some of the grade levels, it looks like, you know, another guided reading group that they pull, or
But
10
in a
minutes.
smaller class
Yeah.
size, you don't have
Right.
10 students that
Right.
you're trying to pull for
Right,
that.
right. So we really have done a good job of kind of dividing and conquering and prioritizing where the students are getting their support from, so.
Thank you.
And that kind of leads into my next section about Act 20. I think I can skip through most of it because we pretty much have covered a lot of it. Our process is really great, like Josie said. A lot of school districts have reached out to share resources and what did you do for this and how did parents take this, and just kind of looking for information on that. I did want to, at the very end, I talked a little bit about the work that we're doing with the literacy curriculum in Charlotte Meyer. So quick update on that. Charlotte was here last week, Thursday, so our literacy team met with her for the afternoon, and we reviewed our final curriculum, so we reviewed the 4. This Thursday, we're gonna share everything out with staff at a staff meeting. And then we are in the process of scheduling vendor presentations. We have opted to have 3 of the 4 vendors short presentation, about a 45-minute presentation for us. There was one of the curriculums, bookworms, that was on the list, but after reviewing it, it really didn't meet any of the needs that we were looking for. So we just kind of took that one off the table, but the other three will be doing that virtually in early December. So we'll have some information on that soon. So the three that we are currently still looking at are EL, it's called EL curriculum, Wit and Wisdom, and then also CKLA. So those are the three that we are still.
Did you narrow that down from going to the expo that CISA 7 had, or are you guys doing
No,
something
this is just through the
separate?
process that we've been using. So Charlotte has been having us use Ed Reports, which is a website that reviews and gives like a ranking in a whole bunch of different categories. Anything from the allotted amount of time that you need in your school day, to what the instruction is broken down into, to ease of accessing resources. Do they have EL resources? Do they have enrichment, intervention? So we just kind of have this big checklist of things that we're looking for. And the bookworms it just was not user-friendly. It didn't have a 4K option, it did not have a 6th grade option, so that was a little bit of a problem. So we just took that one off completely. So, some more information on that. The lit team and I have been talking a little bit about coming in and doing a presentation for the school board, probably in December, if that's something that you'd be interested in, just to explain the process, where we're at with that. We'll have the vendor presentations by that point, and we can share staff input and things like that, so kind of tentatively looking at December 16th. I think it's the 16th. If that's okay with you guys. That's all.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
Thank you. Any questions, further questions?
Do we approve curriculum? Or is that, so we will get that back?
We would have the board approve this one, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so any information we can get would be helpful. Or us.
They
I know they do the work.
They will make a recommendation to the board. We won't be reviewing the curriculums to decide on them. They will make a recommendation based on their expertise to what they feel is, and then we will ultimately have to approve it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. Middle school, high school principal report. Dave?
I have been working with CISA 7 on, and actually Katie is too. We're working with a principal cohort, learning about best practices in principalships. That's the proper word for that. Started by examining our own leadership strengths and weaknesses, how we communicate, who we struggle to communicate with, why. So some communication skills and strategies. Some of the additional meetings tomorrow, we're gonna take or not tomorrow, Wednesday we meet again, we're gonna do a dive on some of our school data. And along with this comes some personal coaching sessions, which is interesting. So Stacy O'Fale, who's leading the group, has met with me already and asked me where do I need additional help and support. So we're able to get some action plans together, and it's just honestly, it's kind of indulgent to sit there and talk about yourself and how your leadership is going. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like that. So that's been good. And then also, of course, the ultimate goal is to affect student learning, right? So the better leader I can be, the better principal I can be, the better our students' opportunity to learn is. And so that's really what we're looking at is, what does our learning data tell us? One of the things that I've asked to push me on is this idea of evidence of learning. So my staff are getting sick of hearing me say, what is the evidence of learning? But that's just language that we have to adopt, because so much of the time we talk about teaching, but we're not focused on, well, we can teach as well as we want, but are the kids learning? So we're trying to focus that, again, everything back to student learning and learning how to be that kind of principal. So that's what's going on with me.
Sounds good. Questions for Dave? All right, we'll keep going. Katie, Pathfinder, ABA, and Tech Pups.
Alright, we'll start out with ABA. We had 5 students attend a youth leadership summit. It was run through RBA in Stevens Point last week. It was put on by RBA and UW Stevens Point, so there was a whole group of college students that were there to talk about different leadership strategies probably similar to some of the work you're doing with CISA. Talk about some of their strengths and weaknesses in leadership and how to be a better leader. The students that went found it really helpful and useful and really enjoyed their time there. So I think we're gonna be more strategic next year on who we send. But it was a really good experience for those that went. We had a group of students go to Strawberry Creek in Sturgeon Bay, which is a salmon spawning place. They were able to help with the salmon spawn for the fall and do some of the egg harvesting. They watched how they put the salmon humanely to rest, and then they brought back a whole bunch of them where Mr. Rasmussen met them at the marina and they learned how to fillet salmon. And then they donated over 100 pounds of salmon to the food pantry here in town. So it was a really cool experience. It's probably maybe the highlight of most of the kids here. They really love just getting their hands dirty, learning the whole spawning process, and then learning how to fillet salmon. So, and then the ones that were able to go to the food pantry, that's always a great experience for them. Pathfinder update, like a broken record, but we had an increase in enrollment again. And when we were talking about money and funding after third Friday count, this happens every year with Pathfinder. We had one student open enrollment from Southern Door in the last week and 2 other students from here go down there, but obviously students who struggle probably are struggling during the first 3 weeks, but also it doesn't come to a head until October-ish, and so that's when we generally see an increase in open enrollments, but there's no dollars attached to that,
No
so.
funding that follows them.
No.
Yeah, that is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed at the state. I mean, it's been that way forever.
I know,
But,
32 years I did it.
Yeah.
And every year it happens.
Complain.
But they are taking advantage of the nice weather. Lexi had them at Cave Point last week, and also I don't know what it's called, but the Wisconsin Farm Aid Center in Manitowoc. And she likes to get them out of the building, because being confined in one building for 8 hours a day with the same people over and over, everybody goes a little stir crazy. So, I also wanted to share, Wyawega Fremont, we had an administrator and a teacher come from there on Friday to visit ABA. They are opening a STEM academy and charter school at their high school. They have one at the middle school level, but they really were interested in our project-based learning and how we did that with students. So we had all of our students really led the visit. They were able to take a tour, sit down one-on-one with our students to talk about the pros and cons of both having a co-located school and about project-based learning. So they're here for about 2 hours. It was really good visit.
We continue as a district to offer lots of guidance to other districts around. I mean, we've seen it twice in our reports tonight, but that has been sort of a thing we've done for a long time, so. Spread the good, right?
How's Pack-a-Pucks? Are you full? Still got a couple openings?
No, we've definitely got spots open right now, so.
Anything big going on there?
The kids went to the apple orchard, so that was really fun for them and for the staff, actually. It's fun to get out, but other than that, not really. We're savoring the last days of nice weather to be outside, so.
Any other questions for Katie on any of the schools? All right, Marie, Special Ed Wellness Report.
I invited Avery Robinson here tonight. He's been in his role as our district social worker for just about over a year. And with it being a new position for our district, I thought it would be helpful if he was able to kind of highlight what his role entails, especially with the key piece of the making mental liaison. That's something that I learned a lot about from him within the last year. So he put together a little short presentation for you, and you take it away.
All right. We can. So, I get this question a lot from staff, and sometimes a lot of confusion because there's school counselors, school social workers, school psychologists. Sometimes I get called a school counselor, and I just kind of correct staff. Like, actually, I'm a school social worker. There's a lot that we do that's in common, but there's a lot that is also kind of done that's kind of distinct to each role. And so, school social workers, like school counselors and school psychologists, can offer counseling and case management for families, but one of the biggest kind of differences when it comes to school social work is serving as a link between school, home, and community in helping students achieve academic success. And more particularly, in my role, a lot of what I'm doing is addressing barriers that families and students experience to try and mitigate that impact that it has on their academic success. Because a lot of times if a student doesn't have a place to go home to that's, a consistent place every night, if they're not having consistent meals every night, a lot of those things impact their ability to focus and be successful in the school setting. So a lot of these barriers include but are not limited to like food insecurity. So I work a lot with families through our weekend backpack program, supplying families with groceries for the weekend, as well as helping families get connected to like Food Share and other food assistance programs within the community, accessing mental health and healthcare. So that could be informal counseling sessions that I have with students, as well as referring them to counseling resources within the community. And then on top of that, helping students and families get set up with insurance so that they can access mental health care and physical health care. Financial instability, a lot of times there's families who can't pay rent for a month, or who need help financially, and so connecting with those families and helping to make sure that they get the assistance needed. Homelessness and housing instability, so that will be, I'll talk a little bit more about that in McKinney-Vento, but that's a big part of my role. And then helping kind of set up transportation and providing transportation for families and students. So, the McKinney-Vento Act is actually a federal law that kind of protects the rights of students age K through 12. And so this applies to any students or families who have lost their housing and live in a situation where they have that housing instability. And so a lot of times those situations can look like staying temporarily with family or friends in doubled up situations, or living in a motel, in a vehicle or shelter, or couch surfing, or just in general unsafe or inadequate conditions to be living in. And so what that kind of looks like, what my job entails, is kind of providing that if students are in a situation where their housing is unstable, they may have to move out of the district, and a lot of times think that they may have to enroll in a different school district. But I can connect with families to try and make sure that they are enrolled, that they stay enrolled in the school district and receive help, assistance with transportation, as well as other needs. Food, as well as school supplies and clothing. They are entitled to receive free breakfast and lunch.
Free
as well,
busing, free busing.
as well as just other kind of community resources. And so when we look at kind of the data from my first year in the district, we saw from the 2022 to 23, or 22-23 to 23-24 school year, we saw a 233% increase in students identified as experiencing homelessness. So that was in the 22-23 school year, a total of 2, and in the 23-24, a total of 10. And this comes up to roughly 1.5% of students in the district or identified as experiencing housing instability, which is an increase of 0.4% from the previous school year, but that's slightly below the state average of 2% of students. And looking at this school year, so at the end of the last school year, I had implemented a housing questionnaire to be added into enrollment to help kind of identify families quicker. And so we've seen success with that. So at this point in the 24-25 school year, we have 9 students identified as McKinney-Vento, and that makes up roughly 1.4% of the student body right now.
resources, you have to go to Manitowoc County, or do you use Lake Shore Cap?
Yep, so Lakeshore Cap, and then there's also a couple other resources that are based out of other counties, but come to Kewaunee County to help.
I know, cause Kiwanee doesn't have anything.
Yeah.
We're working on that through Lake Shore Cap,
Mhm.
trying.
And, I also helped create a housing coalition for Kewaunee County too,
Yes.
right now. So that's also a goal of the coalition, is to try and help bring in resources for families that are experiencing homelessness.
Wonderful. Do you go with the county board to talk about it?
Yeah. Mhm. But that is it. If anybody has questions about McKinney-Vento, or about the work that I do.
Do you split your time between the different schools or the different locations, or what does
Yeah,
that look like for you?
It's kind of tough because my office is here, so I spend most time at the middle school, high school, but I try to get down as much as possible to the elementary school and then Pathfinder and get an AVA.
Is there like a portal to report these numbers on the act, or is this stuff that you're just tracking for our purposes? Do you have to
Yeah.
report that?
Yeah, so this gets put into Power School, and then that gets put into WISE data.
What can the community do to help you? Like, what are your, obviously, housing, a big issue.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that, somebody like me, what can I do to help? Like, is it money, is it school supplies, is it food, is it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because you do see, like, in Kewaunee County, there's not a lot of resources, but there are a lot of resources when you look at your neighbors and your friends in the community, like, they can be very important in helping out. So yeah, it could just be, there's been times where I've kind of reached out to people and like, hey, do you have an extra pair of cleats? I got a kid who's in soccer, and needs a pair of cleats, but he, right now they just can't afford it, because they moved in, from outside the country, and so they can't work, and so they're really struggling financially. So sometimes just donating clothing, and just a level of awareness, I think, on my part, providing awareness within the community so that, if something comes up and a community member has a connection, they can be like, oh, hey, I could help out with this.
Right now, there's a meal train for Wolf Den that I've seen posted. Wolf Den is the program at the elementary school that they get to go to after school, free childcare, they get a meal, games, you can explain it better than me, but they're signing up for community members to make the meal and then staying and having dinner with the kids so that they get to know people. I thought that was a really great idea, because you can quick throw together a lasagna or a crock pot meal or something.
Yeah.
And that's been really successful doing that.
Yeah.
With the community bringing the meal
Mhm.
for all.
It's great for the community and it's
Yeah.
great for the kids.
Yeah, that's a good example.
I guess with piggyback off of that, do we have anything like somebody does wanna donate something, or, like they're a bed, or, instead of a couch, or, clothing, do we, you know what I mean? Like, are you the contact? Do we have anything set up, or,
Is there a wish list anywhere?
yeah, is there like a want list?
There isn't like right now a need or want list, but that would be a good idea in the future. To have
Oh,
something
we
like
have
that
the
set up.
clothing closet.
But we have the clothing,
Yeah.
yeah, we have like the clothing closet, we have like a weekend backpack program, but like if there are any of those odd kind of.
Mhm.
of
I mean, like
needs.
something different like that. I mean, clothing closet's
Yeah.
great, but
Yeah.
I mean, toys, or, even some
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
think like our St. Vincent, they're limited hours, right? So they're not even open all the time where people can access the
And it's certain
needs.
things there too, it's not all items are there, so.
And a lot of things you think about, like toiletry items, like
Mhm.
shampoos and deodorants, things of that nature.
I think a bigger issue is the housing and the lack of housing, and possibly a voucher for them to spend a night in a hotel, because right now, we don't have anything in Kewaunee County. I know I sit on Lake Shore Cap as the board, and that's one of the things that we keep talking about is Door County has it, Kewaunee doesn't, Brown's got it, Outagamies got it, I mean, everything, Manitowoc, Sheboygan, we're the only little enclave that doesn't, and we know it exists. Cause I've done the point in time surveys, and you go and we can find them. It's just, we aren't doing anything, so I think you being on the coalition is a great step. And I don't know how we move them forward so that we can do something,
Mhm.
cause right now it's just a voucher. But that doesn't stop the process. It doesn't stop, I mean, the apartment's going up, the 40-unit apartment, which is for low income, is gonna help, or workforce development, it's not low income workforce development, but it's not gonna stop it, it's still there.
But,
Toiletries are good.
I mean, all the community help is, because a lot of situations I go to, like, the churches around the area, and St. Vincent and Red Cross, and ask, you know, like, hey, is there any possibility that we could have this for a family? So especially with the state of how resources are so scarce in this county, that community collaboration is really helpful.
I'd like to connect with you offline here at some point. I have a couple of resources that I can share with you that
Yeah.
can help in a pretty impactful way, so. Awesome, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'm sad that you have to do it, but I'm glad you are.
Yeah, and I'm really thankful that our school district has the position for you to be helping our students.
That's only his one thing he does, I mean, as a social worker, you do a lot.
Kind of a really good segue into the next agenda item that is on my list, is something that Avery and I are collaborating on along with the superintendent. There is a new initiative that the Kewaunee County, well, it's rooted in the human services, but between the 3 school districts in Kewaunee County, as well as human services, we've partnered with business owners, community members, members of churches, and we've been kind of growing our group with a goal in mind to work toward kindness, quote unquote. We came up with the name Kindness at Work in Kewaunee County, and really the intent of this group is how can we use the momentum of all these good things happening within Kewaunee County and highlight those things. So I'm hearing you say, like, how can I help? How can I donate? Like, these are the things that we want to bring to the forefront and recognize, especially in a time of, in this world where all we hear, especially on the internet, is the negative, like, so-and-so is doing this, and bullying's an issue, and they are, but how can we really, like, highlight the good things that are happening and show this connectedness, this group of individuals that are all aiming toward really wanting to focus on the good, honestly, like, we've talked about it many times, just the golden rule, to treat others the way you want to be treated. If there's somebody in the community that you don't agree with, that's okay, but you can have civil discourse with them and, you know, agree to disagree and not feel like you need to hate them. Like, how can we use that momentum to show all the wonderful things that are happening in the county and bring some more good into the world?
Well, I'm putting the 11/13/24 in my calendar.
So, yeah, I missed that important detail. That is gonna be our kickoff date because it is International Kindness Day. So Avery and I have kind of collaborated to be the social media posters. So look out on social media on World Kindness Day. We're hoping to highlight different things happening within the community at the different school districts, different businesses, and then hopefully keep that momentum going as we continue. Any questions?
You wanna talk about the kindness cows?
I didn't get into the kindness cows yet, because it's still kind of up in the air.
I know, but they'll be seen throughout the community,
Yes,
so.
so starting with this initiative, it's just something that's fun, these little kindness cows that are just a tangible token for you to recognize a kind act. Amy Shaneberger, who's one of our paraprofessionals, her husband has been joining us, and he came up with these kindness cows, and it's kind of evolved into, like, the cows are a really great representation of Kewaunee County. However, there's also, like, other animals that we can get little trinkets for, because then it makes it exciting for kids if they can collect these little trinkets. So it's kind of in the works, but if you see any kindness cows, that is associated with our kindness at work in Kewaunee.
Sounds good.
Yours are probably a lot bigger.
Yeah.
They don't fit in a little baggie.
One whole package is usually, but.
Any committee reports. The only committee that met was the finance committee. I really have nothing to say about the meeting that wasn't all brought forward and addressed tonight in terms of budget hearing and what we will be approving here a little bit later. Other items for discussion. The one thing I was thinking is that the Public Relations Committee might want to think about setting a date. We're looking at a new web, I don't know what you would call that, website, whatever. It's a fairly, pricey endeavor, and so something that I'd like to have the committee take a look at. And the other thing, Chris, you're the chair. The other thing that I would think as a committee you might want to, at the same time, if you're going to meet, sort of discuss some different like PR kinds of things for like our new egg program and, get some sort of discussion started on that. Because we do have some cool new things and we'd love to attract new students and, anyway, so if you guys wanna, figure out a time.
Yeah, we can get a public relations committee scheduled and we can look at dates after the meeting here, but also a buildings and grounds and transportation. We can schedule another committee for that. Get some proposals, quotes for refinishing the elementary gym floor over the summer too, so we'd like to run those by the committee, so.
Great. So the people involved in those, we'll get some dates afterwards. Anything else? Everybody thinks so. Okay, we'll move to action. I need a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of September 23rd, 2024, and the finance committee minutes of October 7th, 2024.
So moved.
Motion made by
Second.
Amy and seconded by you. Okay. Amy and Lonnie? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the bills. So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Chrissy, seconded by Chris Benish. Questions or discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. These will all be roll call votes, the next four. I need a motion to approve the final budget, 2024-25 school year.
Second.
Motion by Jeremy, seconded by Chris Schley. Roll call vote, Jeremy.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Lonnie,
Yes.
Chrissy.
Yes.
And I also say yes. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the tax levy for Fund 10 in the amount of $3,037,675.
So moved.
Second. Motion made by Amy, seconded by Chrissy. Roll call vote, Chris.
Yes.
Chrissy.
Yes.
Lonnie.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
And I also say yes. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the tax levy for referendum approved debt, Fund 39, in the amount of $760,000.
Second.
Made by Lonnie, seconded by Chris Benish. Roll call vote, Chris.
Yes.
Chrissy.
Yes.
Lonnie.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
I also say yes. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the tax levy for Community Services Fund 80 in the amount of $387,000.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Chrissy, second by Amy. Roll call vote, Jeremy.
Yes.
Amy.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Lonnie.
Yes.
Chrissy.
Yes.
Chris. And I also say yes. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the Nicolay Bank Wealth Management as the vehicle for school district fund balance.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
by Jeremy, second by Amy. Questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the contract with Little Hearts Big Minds not to exceed $15,000 for the 24-25 school year.
So moved.
Motion made by Chrissy.
Second.
Seconded by Jeremy. Questions or discussion on that?
Is this something CISA can't offer, or just something completely different because of his model?
Correct, yeah, completely different. CISA would not offer anything like this. It's gonna be coming in twice a week to meet with up to 30 students, I believe it is. 15 middle schoolers, 15 high schoolers,
Small groups, or?
small
okay.
group, yeah.
Anything else? We have a motion in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the donation of $15,000 from Terry Fullweiler to the Algoma School District Baseball Program.
So, second.
Motion made by Glenn, seconded by Chris Sly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the ski club alternative weather date of January 20th, 2025 to Norway Mountain in Norway, Michigan.
So moved.
Motion made by
Second.
Chrissy, seconded by Chris Benish. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the band trip to New Orleans from March 20th to the 26th, 2025.
So moved.
Was that Amy?
Yep.
And Lonnie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And any requests for future agenda items? All right, then we will need a motion to go into executive session under Wisconsin statute 19.85 subsections 1 and C.
So moved. Second.
All right. Chrissy and
Chris.
Chris Sly. Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes.